moviegoers, and welcome to another edition of Have You Seen It? I am your host, Denise, and this week I am going to review a sports movie. Big George Foreman, the miraculous story of the once and future heavyweight champion of the world. Say that one 5 times fast. That's like a really long title. All right, this movie just came out, I'd say less than 2 weeks ago, but I thought I would go and check it out. I am a boxing fan and grew up watching the likes of George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, that whole crew back in the 70s and onward. And so I said, I need to go and see this movie and get a little background knowledge on George Foreman. So this movie stars Chris Davis. He plays the role of George Foreman. Forrest Whitaker, Jasmine Matthews, Sullivan Jones, Sonia San, or she may pronounce her first name Sanja, and Shine Mom Premier. I have seen and heard her first name pronounced 4 different ways, but it is spelled Shein, and her last name is Mom Premier. All right, so this movie follows the remarkable career of George Foreman from childhood all the way up to adulthood and into retirement. So this movie starts when George is a young boy. I'm thinking about 10 or 11. And he is living with his mother and siblings. And they are impoverished. And so, it's hard to get food on the table. They barely have shelter. They barely have, the basics of what they need in order to survive. But you know how moms are. They do what they have to do to hold their family together and do what they have to do for their kids. So George is a young boy that we realize very quickly is triggered when he feels as though he has been disrespected. It feels like he is being victimized either by his peers and in some instances his teachers growing up. So what is his method of dealing with that? I fight. So he goes through his childhood, going through, childhood fighting and getting into trouble, getting in and out of trouble, doing all kinds of crazy things that don't benefit him in any regard. He drops out of school and joins the Job Corps. And so this is basically his lifeline. If George does not enter the Job Corps and learn a skill, get some education, there's no telling where his life would have ended up. So it is in the Job Corps that he meets Forrest Whitaker's character, who becomes his trainer, and he learns how to box as a sport with rules as opposed to just lashing out and just fighting. So he learns the difference between the two, and he goes to the 1968 Olympics. Now, I either knew that part and forgot it, or I just never knew it at all. But he goes to the Olympics, 1968. He wins that gold medal, and his boxing career is off and running, starting, at the amateur level and then working his way up to the heavyweight level. Fast forward to the Rumble in the Jungle with Muhammad Ali. And in that fight, if you know how it ended, okay. If you don't, you have to go see the movie to see how it ended. But after that, that fight, George is defeated not only physically, but mentally and spiritually. He finds the Lord, he becomes a preacher, and he has said, boxing is not my life anymore. I'm moving on, and I want to be a preacher, and I want to help other people. So, he is very good at that. But then we have another plot twist where, of course, you always, sometimes when you're a celebrity, whether it's sports or entertainment, you've got other people handling your money. And when those people aren't doing the right things with your money, it'll cause problems. And that's what happened to George. His money was lost. What do? I got to get back in the ring. Fast forward good 10 years, and at 45, he says, I'm going to regain that heavyweight championship of the world. And of course, people are like, give me a break. You're 45 years old. You weigh well over 300 pounds. There's no way you're going to get in shape. But we see that George does what he has to do to get back in the ring and get that title. And his career is revived. And there you go. And then along the way, we've got that George Foreman grill. So, and yes, I did own one for quite a while, and it worked very well. I loved it. But there you go. That is the story of George Foreman. Now, afterwards, I did Google just to get a little bit more background knowledge about him, and I learned quite a bit about him. So it was an interesting movie. It was a little long. It was a tad bit over 2 hours. So if they had cut back good 15 minutes, we'd have been fine. But check it out. Give yourself a little boxing history with regard to George Foreman and some other boxers that you may be familiar with. All right, folks. So I'm going to jump right into my Nailed It. My Nailed It this week is Faye Dunaway in the movie Mommy Dearest, where she portrayed Joan Crawford. And the movie was based on the book that Joan Crawford's daughter, Christina, wrote about her mom. And I'm telling you, first of all, Faye Dunaway was a dead ringer for Joan Crawford. And she played her beautifully. Mean, physically and emotionally abusive to not only Christina, but her brother Christopher as well. She played a woman who was triggered by the slightest thing could set this woman off. And when she went berserk, she held nothing back. Hence the term no wire hangers. You can actually see 2 minutes and 34 seconds on YouTube of Faye Dunaway in her glory as Joan Crawford. That whole hanger scene will have you shaking in your shoes. So she is my Nailed It for this week. Check out Faye Dunaway as Joan Crawford in the movie Mommy Dearest. All right, folks, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that like button. And we are available on every podcast platform in the universe. Just check out Have You Seen It? Just type it in, Have You Seen It with Denise, and there I will be. All right, folks, you know what to do. Until next week, I need you to go see a movie because I'm going to see a movie. Bye-bye.